How you going, people? It's Phil here. It's a Saturday here in New Zealand, and it's summer. It's crazy hot, and so I'm doing this like an hour earlier than normal because sun goes and gets really hot really soon. And making noise like this, have to close windows. And there's some contractors next door doing some like bandsaw stuff and some metal work, and so thought I just better get on with it. So today I'm going to be talking a little bit about things you should be doing and things you should not be doing. This is all around things you should be kind of practicing or focusing on, and bad habits that I've seen with my own students that you should try and wean yourself off. So I'm going in no particular order. Hey Mark, how you going? Nice to see you. It's always good to see you up and around. You're not exercising today or fishing? I don't know. What's the fishing like in your part of the world at this time of year? Is there much for catching? Is this the best time? I really don't. I don't know anything about fishing. Okay, so I've got a list of about 9 or 10 things. Too cold for fishing. Yeah, fair enough. When is the best time then? Is it just kind of any time except winter? Hopefully that's not too loud. Yeah. Okay, so no particular order. I try and do this in some kind of logical order. Okay, the first one for me, and this is a particular one between early intermediates, or basically any guitar players who've entered into the realm of soloing. Here's what they tend to do. They'll play me something, they'll be like, and I'm like, that's actually quite cool, apart from you put vibrato on every single note. And I see that a lot. People always just I know it feels good and I know it sounds good, but it doesn't sound good when you do it all the time because there's no contrast. The idea is there's notes without any vibrato, and then there are some with vibrato. And that's what makes it vibrato. If it was just all on all the time, then you might as well not call it vibrato because it's just like your way of playing, full stop. So try and really wean yourself off not putting any vibrato on anything. In the first place, just play it dead straight. It's actually very hard to do because it's a habit that you just pick up. So if you're going, yeah, and then once you've just got that execution, then try and put something in somewhere. It's a lot more expressive, and it means that it just sounds like you've thought about what you're doing a lot more than just your automatic playing, just your automatic, let's just add vibrato to every single note. So I have one particular student who does it all the time, and I'm like, I don't actually, get the ruler and whack him on the knuckles like my old piano teacher used to do. But I'm like, just stop that. Just stop that. And I did hear Joe Satriani mention that in an interview, who's saying when he was taking lessons with Lenny Tristano, Lenny Tristano would say, what's the phrase? Put some English on that, or take the English off it, or I never heard that phrase before, but basically it was because Joe was playing everything with vibrato. So wean yourself off the vibrato, be conscious of it, and start by playing with none of it, which will make you a more considered player when knowing where to put it. And of course, your vibrato's not all the same. You don't need to go. You could, if for a slow ballad, let the note ring first and then add vibrato to it. If you listen to singers, they will sing the note first, release the note, and then add something to it. Take the English off it, or usually for putting spin on the ball. Oh, okay. I did not know that. Thank you, Mark. And you've got, it doesn't always have to be aggressive vibrato. All right, you can do slow. So that's number one. Number two, and again, this is kind of early intermediates, is to do with your bends. Bending is one of the nicest feeling things you can do. And you can make the face and, all of that, because it just feels good to bend that note up. But so many intermediate students, and even some of the more advanced, they don't really practice their bends in terms of their accuracy. They don't kind of go, here's my target note, here's my bend up. So they never practice that kind of making sure it's to the actual pitch they're aiming for. So that means you get stuff like, let's try and not to make it sound that cool, but that actually sounds pretty cool. They just overbend or underbend. Yes, it's kind of hard. Overbending or underbending. Underbending, you can usually get away with a little more, especially if you're bending maybe from the you're just doing a semitone bend. You can get away with it, but there's not enough focus on practicing the accuracy of bends. There's lots of just playing, like just soloing and using bends, but that's not the same as checking that your bends are to pitch, with the intent of, I'm going to do a whole tone bend, so I need to make sure it gets to that actual pitch. And coupled with that, a lot of players who are getting into soloing do this thing where they kind of just let the bend ring as they release it. So you can, yeah. And so you kind of hear the note start to die, and not in a good way. There should be kind of, stop it when it is there. Not. Unless you're, the intent is to go. You can make it kind of like that. But I think for the most part, a good rule of thumb is choke off the note once you've got it to pitch. Now, there's lots of ways you can choke off that note. A student pointed out that I actually use my pick sometimes and touch it to the string that's ringing to stop it from ringing. I don't unsqueeze. I don't do any other kind of left hand or right hand muting. So just try and keep the bends accurate. Do a bit of work on, just do a bit of work on it. 3 or 4 minutes of just going, here's my target note, here's my bend up. And do that on different strings on the fretboard. And that will just help your accuracy and it will sound better. The other thing with bending is depending on what gauge strings you have and what tuning you've got your guitar in, the amount of pressure and push you need to execute is different. If you've got 10s and you go to a guitar with 9s, I've got several guitars. I'm assuming that you may have more than one. All your kind of points of reference are different depending on what guitar you're playing and what tuning it's in. I typically play with 9s across the board. So I don't have too much of an issue there. I've got a new guitar with 10s on it, which is new for me. So I'm having to push harder and stronger. I've also got the Hendrix Strat, which is tuned to E flat for when we go and play live. And of course, with E flat, the strings are looser. So again, I have to reset the amount of effort I put into bending. Otherwise, I overbend because I'm using the amount of execution pressure I would for a normal standard tuned guitar. So you just have to be a little bit aware of those things too. So no vibrato, work on that. Work on the accuracy of your bends because that's kind of key. I think a really big one is not sticking with one thing. Shiny object syndrome. Hey, I'm just going to do this YouTube tutorial on this. Oh, wait, what's this? Oh, I've got this. Okay, they've got new. Oh, I've got yeah, somebody's posted on Instagram. And learners seem to do about 30 seconds of everything. And to their detriment, it shows because they kind of know the surface of a lot of things, but they haven't really drilled down into anything in any great deal of detail or for any great length of time. And it means you're just kind of half-assing everything. And you're not going to feel good about that because it's going to take you longer to get better if you try and advance on everything you've done because you've only learnt the surface layer of everything. Just, pick one thing, be disciplined. It is really hard because there's lots of cool stuff out there. There's lots of demands for your attention. And, it's hard not to move on to the next thing that pops up. It's cool. It's an advert. It's like it's the Soundbrenner haptic metronome, or it's some other cool thing, or if it's another one of those freaking musician ads. Hopefully you don't click those. But just focus. Focus on one thing for a while, okay? That could be a technique. It could be anything, but just hold on to it and keep going with it. And then you'll get better at that one thing. And then once you're reasonable at that, then move on. So shiny object syndrome is, it's down to you. I can say just stick with one thing, but it is hard because the world is full of distractions and most people are time poor. But if you want to get better, you have to do the hard yards. You have to do some hours on certain things. And if you're always flitting between lots of different things, it's not going to happen. Okay. Here's probably one thing that I really don't agree with that I've heard as advice for people, particularly, again, for soloists, people learning to solo. Okay, so we've got typically I have the advice, well, let's learn the minor pentatonic scale, and you learn the minor pentatonic scale, and then the advice is, well, just put on a backing track and noodle. Just have a play around, play the scale over these things and kind of, no, that's pointless. That's just random. Okay, it serves no purpose musically. Okay, if you've learned the scale shape, then you know the scale shape. But then just randomly playing notes of the scale shape up and down over a backing track, there's no intent to that. Okay, and there's also no connection to the backing track, apart from the fact that the scale may fit to some degree over the backing track. It's not helping you phrase. Playing a scale it just doesn't do you any good. It's wasting your time. You could be doing much more efficient things. Now, if you want to hone in on that a bit more and you want to continue to try that kind of improvising, getting a feel for soloing, then you have to phrase. You have to take the scale notes and put them into something that's musical. And when you learn scales, I think too many times you will drill them up and down in all different shapes. And to a degree, that's useful, because if you've never seen the shapes before and you've never played them before, you do need to introduce some muscle memory. But once you know the shapes, which shouldn't take too long, you could learn the shapes you need in a month or less. Then you need to move on to applying those things in a musical manner. And that means not really thinking of them as shapes, but as starting points. There's a collection of notes there you can choose from. Okay, so if we've got, if we've got A minor pentatonic, oops. That's not how music really is. You need to go. Okay, still notes in the scale, but that's musical. We're playing different rhythm. And so try and apply things musically. And if you want to practice your scale shapes, then do that. But don't do it for too long, because then you end up sounding very scalar when you play. And I really have a beef with that, especially people who just go. Just go up and down all scales. Yes, it will help you. If you don't know them, it will help you to know them. But once you know them, okay, you don't need to practice your scales anymore. I don't think. It's like once you know how to talk, you don't need to practice your alphabet. Okay, you don't need to every morning before you speak to somebody. You don't need to go A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Okay, because that's not applying those things. Okay, you need to take the letters, mix them around, make them into words, and then speak sentences. So that's number, what's that? 3, I think. Number 3. Okay, number 4 is only doing the fun stuff. Mark, you say you tell students to play a simple groove, even one chord, and get comfortable intertwining your riff and scale licks. Yeah, that's a great way of doing things. I also try and get my students to anchor certain licks with certain chords, just so I guess they can recognize, hey, this chord is playing. Let's say it's an A major, and I teach them a couple of licks like. So say that, just link that shape with that lick. And every time you get to play like a major bar chord in whatever key, you could always pull out that. You can always pull out that lick because we're anchoring it to that chord shape. That's quite useful because it helps connect licks they know with things they know about the chords they're playing. And I find that really more useful to them in the longer term rather than just learn a bunch of licks. Like I know you can buy packs of 50 blues licks, okay, but I'm not sure those go, okay, here are the blues licks and here is where they work. This lick works over the 4 chord in blues and here's the reason why. typically it's just cool sounding licks, and they pretty much do work over anything. But again, that's keeping the understanding of chords separate to notes and licks. And most guitarists, I feel, do see rhythm and chord playing over here, and then solo and lick stuff over here, and actually they're just right there together, but it's just the way we think about them. Number 4 is only doing the fun stuff. I know guitar is a fun thing to do, and it's good to crank it up and shred and play your favorite songs, and it's important that you keep that. It really is, because you need to remain engaged with the instrument and excited about what you can do with it. Even if you can't do very much, do the things that you like to do that make you feel good. But it does have to be a learning experience, and there is no avoiding the fact that you do have to work at it and learn new stuff. And sometimes that new stuff is incredibly scary and appears complex. I remember when I was learning the circle of fifths, and I Googled it, and some of those graphics you see about the circle of fifths are horrifically scary. And you think, I'm never going to learn this. I mean, how does anybody absorb all this information? Usually it's your naivety or your lack of knowledge around a subject that makes it feel more scary than it is. You just need to find the right person or the right video on YouTube to explain it to you in the right way for it to click. Walter, licks are just a roadmap. It's up to us to enjoy the trip. Very true, Walter. Very true. I learned I did when I was a kid. I've still got that somewhere. Where is it? I learned from the Metal Method. Doug Marks, great player. He's still around. He has the Metal Method, and I got the books in the mail, and it showed me the minor pentatonic scale, which I thought was amazing. And then it had, I think it started off with 30 licks, but there was, again, no reference to where those licks were placed. I think they were all in A, I remember, but some of them were Dorian licks, some of them were Mixolydian licks. None of that was really kind of entered into, and also no link to the chords that they worked over. But you have to work at it. You have to include the fun stuff and the hard work. And sometimes hard work is really hard work. It's like months and months of hard work. But you have to stick at it, because that's the only way you improve. And following on from that, the other thing, if you're working on something for a long time and you're getting frustrated because you don't feel you're getting better, it's because you're not measuring what you're doing. Okay, you need to benchmark where you are right now. Then you need to record, document your progress. Usually just video yourself on your phone, and then write that down and document it over a period of time. Keep a kind of diary. Because it's like, I don't know, it's like if you have kids and you're with them all the time and you don't see them growing because, they're growing a little bit each day and you don't notice it because you're too close. But if you go and visit somebody else's kids and you haven't seen them for like 3 months, you're like, wow, they've really grown. Haven't they shot up? And you notice the difference. And it's the same with your daily practice. If you're practicing something and you're like, oh man, at the end of 5 days or end of 15 days or whatever, you're like, I'm no better at this than when I started. I've plateaued. I'm hitting my head against a brick wall. This sucks, and it kind of destroys you emotionally because you love that joy of the guitar and what it gives to you. It's because you're probably not really recording it. And if you did do something on day 1 and then recorded yourself doing it and then did it daily, and then on day 15 you did another video, even on day 15 you feel like you suck just as much as you did on day 1, you actually didn't. If you compared those 2 videos, you would see a difference, you would hear a difference. But because you're doing it every day, you don't notice. So benchmark, give yourself a goal. Okay, I want to get my picking up to 240 BPM. I don't know what goals you have. Usually they're quite technical. And you have to just go through it. If it's a timing thing, if it's like a tempo thing, BPM, then you have to start much, much lower and you build up to it and give yourself a reasonable time frame. Most people really underestimate how long it takes to execute something nice and cleanly. I would say give yourself double what you think you could do. Number one, it's probably more realistic. Number two, it sets you up for success, because if you don't nail it, if you give yourself a week, I want to be doing this in a week, and if you don't hit it after a week, then you're going to be really kind of upset with yourself that you didn't hit that goal. Whereas if it's twice as long, you'll feel less pressure and you're far more likely to hit it. Okay, what else is up on the board? I talked about noodling. I talked about overbending, underbending, too much vibrato all the time, only doing the fun stuff, shiny object syndrome, making sure you benchmark and record and measure stuff you do. I got 3 more, and then we'll take some questions. We'll do some other stuff. You guys are out there. You got any questions about anything? Then chuck it in the chat, and hopefully I'll be able to help. Okay, number 7. This is 7 of 9, so we're nearly done. Number 7 is transcribing and ear training. Okay, I'm worried about this because I know that the availability of tab is so simple to get hold of really good stuff now. Okay, accurate tab or semi-accurate tab. A lot of tab I see though still from Songster or Ultimate Guitar or wherever you get your tab from. It's still, when I look at it and listen to the original track, it doesn't seem to be 100% accurate. The only accurate one that's out there is the one that you do. And not enough guitar players are listening to stuff and trying to work it out by ear and write it down. And I know the reason is, well, I don't have to spend an hour trying to figure out a song. I could just get the tab. And that's true. And that's great because it gets you to enjoying the song sooner. But what you're missing there is the process of listening and working it out and writing it down is actually improving a skill that you vitally need. Okay, I can hear something and work it out without anything apart from the track. And a lot of people can't hear where they need to be, or they don't have that strength of ear. And they don't have that strength of ear because they've never tried transcribing or working anything out by ear. So I can't stress that enough. And chart it out. Elephant Jack. Can you smell fingers? Do you like fingers? Well, that's a bit of a curveball, dude. I can smell, and I do have fingers. So whatever trip you're on, buddy. So transcribing doesn't have to be like a 20-year journey, okay? It doesn't need to be all 3 minutes of a song. Just pick something simple that you want to learn. It might be the opening theme to something that's a little bit of guitar. Or it might be a jingle, or it might be the melody for a game you like playing on PlayStation or whatever. But the point is you do that, and you do it often. And, you know, it's hard to start with. It's slow to start with because you've never done it before. But the more you do it, like anything, the better you get. And really it starts with, if you listen to something, I typically ask students to work out opening melodies for things like the opening to Gravity, or like the opening kind of guitar bit for Wonderful Tonight, or Jaded by Aerosmith, or something that's got a little thing at the beginning, a little melody before it goes into the song. Usually, if you can get stuff with melodies at the beginning of the song, there's less instrumentation at the front of the song for you to kind of separate the guitar parts into. Mark says 100% accurate is not possible, only approximate. Even full music notation is approximate. Writing it out yourself is super helpful. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the thing I remember about learning piano as opposed to guitar, and I learned guitar by ear, and have been playing for 20 years before I had any piano lessons. The thing that struck me was after I'd done the Twinkle Twinkle Little Star or whatever, like the basic things, my piano teacher opened the book, okay, and put it in front of you, and she said, okay, now play. And it was in that moment I realized I have no idea what this thing I'm about to play sounds like. I've never heard it before. And that freaked me out, because when learning guitar, everything I learned, I'd listened to lots first, and I knew how the song went, so I knew what I was listening for. And that was fascinating to me. I was like, I have no idea. I'm going to learn how the song goes as I play it. Still didn't really get over that. But listening, writing it down, just try it. And it's, in its most basic form, play the first note of the melody or the first two notes of the melody and sing them, and make sure you're singing the same pitch as what you're hearing. That's the first thing. Once you're confident about you singing the pitch that you're hearing, it's really a question of, okay, note one, you get note one. Let's say note one is here. And then there's another note. And you literally ask yourself, is the next note, is note number two higher or lower or the same as note number one? And that way you go, okay, so do is here. If it goes do, 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 got do, do. Okay, so it's definitely, is it higher or lower? Do, do. It's higher. Do, do. How much higher? We don't know. But if you're here, you want to go do, do. You know that if it's higher, then you need to move higher up the fretboard, right? Do, 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 do. Is the third one higher than the second one? Do, do, do. It is. Do, 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 do. Is that one higher than the one before? Yes. And that's how you do it. Slow, but just take it one at a time and ask yourself the question, is the next note higher or lower or the same as the one before? And 10, 15 minutes, you might have 16 notes. It is a little slow to begin with, but you do gather momentum and you do get better and your ears do get sharper. And as long as you keep that as part of your practice, it will always do you good, because having strong ears filters down to everything else you do, whether it's trying to work out somebody else's song or trying to hear a solo in your head or translating what you hear in your head onto the fingerboard, stuff like that. So transcribing and ear training and doing charts. It doesn't have to be necessarily, tab with numbers on it. If you're not doing a solo, you might just want to chart the structure of a song. Okay, it might be a simple thing of, you just saying, okay, it's A minor for 2 bars, and then it's G for 2 bars, and it goes to F. And then the structure of the song is that happens twice, because that's the 2 verses. And then there's a chorus, and the chorus is like G, D, and A, whatever. Formalize that so you can not only help you learn the song, but if you come back to it after a year or something or whatever, you can just pull out the chart and easily and quickly familiarize yourself with the song. And not only that, the fact that you took the time to listen and chart the thing means that extra intense listening and active kind of listening and writing that stuff down, that process would also strengthen your recall when it comes to revisiting that. a lot of the time when I transcribe things, by the time I finish transcribing it, I don't need the transcription because I've gotten so close to it and paid so much attention to everything while I worked it out that's it's a useful byproduct, and I can come back to it later if I want to refresh after a year or 3 months or whatever. But usually I'm pretty much sorted. Okay, a couple more things. The click. We have to talk about clicks, because I know everybody says, you've got to use a click when you practice, use a metronome. That is true, and it is very important. Do this with simple 3-chord riffs and build up your ears. Start simple. Yeah, it's all about starting simple and starting slow, right? So many people, I say, I've been playing guitar for 4 weeks now and I still can't play the Tornado of Souls solo from Megadeth. What's wrong with me? You have to start simple, start slow, be patient. I know we live in a one-click world where everything we need can be given to us, apart from skills. We can't do the whole Matrix thing of just pull out something, plug in something else, and I know Kung Fu. It doesn't work like that. You have to work at it. Okay, so you have to be patient. Varying the click is what I'm talking about next. Clicks are great. Clicks are important. Clicks keep you honest about your ability. There was many years where I didn't practice with a click at all, and I thought my timekeeping was really good, and it wasn't bad. But when I had to play to a click, I realized how much further I needed to go. I played with drummers. Most of the time I was in band, so I had a click. That click was a drummer, but with all the other stuff going on in the band, it wasn't clear to me how far off I was. And I think guitarists generally, we always pull forward. We always want to go faster than the groove that's laid down. It's just, I don't know, we're just a little bit frenetic, a little bit worried about how we're going to get there. And so we tend to pull forward, be early in the beats. But this is not just about playing with a metronome, because everybody knows you should play with a metronome. This is about varying that metronome. And it's kind of like taking away gradually I can't think of an analogy. I was going to say safety net, but that doesn't work because the safety net's either there or it's not, okay? This is more like taking things away gradually to leave you more space. And what I'm talking about is something like starting your metronome like at 180 or something, playing something. Let's do this. So if you were playing like, okay, that's all good, but then that's giving you a click for every note you play. But then bring that metronome, half the metronome timing of that. So now you've got it at 90. So now you've only got one click for every other note. Try and do the same thing. Okay, and then half that click again to 45. And if you can halve that click again, 22, no, and it goes down to 40. But vary a click, okay? Vary the click. And what we've done there by starting at 180 and then moving it to 90 is we've reduced the number of clicks by half. So your kind of safety net of making sure you've got that click reference to know you're in time is gradually pulled away from you. So in the end, we were there at we were at 45. which meant there was one click for every like 4 notes, or I can't remember, 4 or 8 notes. And so there's less sonic reference for you to make sure you're on the beat. So it makes you rely on your internal time a bit more. The other thing with metronomes is you should vary when you practice. You should vary. So if you're trying to kind of get up to, I don't know, 240 BPM down picking because you're well into Metallica. I'm still working on that, by the way. Then you want to work up. It's like, let's say you can only do 180. That's fine. We'll work at 180. Let's see if I can actually do anything at 100. Let's try 200. Down picks. Yeah. Let's say you're at 200 and you want to kind of get that. Okay, so that's your threshold. That's as fast as you can go. You're trying to work up to 240. The thing to do is definitely work at that threshold, but people think it's harder to go faster, but it's actually harder to go slower with a metronome. And, it all helps with your kind of finessing and your execution if you're going slower, because you've got more time to make mistakes in terms of how you're timing on the grid. So varying the click is very useful, and a lot of people are only focused on how fast they can go. But it's kind of, I feel it's like interval training. So go fast for a bit and then go super slow, because you're working on different skill set there, because you don't need to focus on speed. So you have to focus on execution, technically delivering those notes cleanly and without ringing strings and making sure things are muted. So the slow thing demands attention in different areas of your playing, even if you're playing the same stuff, and then go back to fast, and then do kind of mid-tempo, and then go back to fast, and then go back and vary it to give you a more rounded technique. And the last thing I want to mention is you got to learn it all. Okay, there's no point in, there's no point in just learning your favorite riff from your favorite song, because it means you don't know the whole song. And when it comes to people going, oh yeah, can you play me something? When people say play me something, they really mean play me a song that I know that I can kind of sing along to, or at least appreciate in its entirety, in the same way that I do when I listen it to on Spotify. They don't want to hear you play, 20 seconds of a song's riff, and they're going, oh, so it's the verse next, right? And you're like, oh yeah, but I haven't worked out the verse. Learn the whole thing. Okay, some of the verse bits might not be your favorite bits to play. They may not even be things that you want to play, because, oh, that bit's so simple. It's just G and D. And I already know G and D. Yeah, but you don't have a repertoire if you can't play a whole song all the way through. Okay, so that's my 9 things if you've just come in. Number 1 was stop doing vibrato all the time. Number 2 was work on your bending, because overbending and underbending is a bit of a sin for early intermediates. Number 3 was noodling. Don't aimlessly noodle with your scale shapes. Have some intent and purpose, and always see scale shapes and scales as the ingredients. Okay, that's not the solo. They're the ingredients for the solo, and you have to decide on which notes are in, which notes you're not going to use, and how you're going to use the duration of those notes and the phrasing of those notes to create a solo. So scales aren't solos. I think you already worked that out. And a lot of people going, how do I make my playing sound less scalar and more musical? Stop practicing up and down scales and apply the knowledge of scales in musical situations. Number whatever was only doing the fun stuff. Okay, you got to learn, you got to work at it, and you got to give yourself reasonable time. So make sure you benchmark, record. Just get your smartphone, put it there, and just film your fingers. Okay, and then put a spreadsheet together, or make a note of how fast you did it, or what you were feeling, or things you messed up, and how long it took. Okay, shiny object syndrome. Stick to one thing, do it well. Transcribe, chart. It doesn't have to be full transcriptions, but you do have to just start. Vary the click, so you work on different aspects of your playing. And the last one was learn the whole song. Okay, don't just learn snippets. So that's all for today. Let's have a bit of a noodle, and you can put any questions or anything else. You want one? I just do a bit of this. All right, people, any questions? Which of these or others typically hold people back from playing out or even an open mic? Well, I think probably the main one, Mark, is learning the whole song. Because if you don't have a whole song, you can't play at an open mic. And I mean, even if you don't go there intending to play a whole song, because you're not like I'm not a singer, songwriter, guitar player. I'll just go and join in with what other people are doing. Probably the second thing would be the ear training. So if you go to an open mic or a jam, and somebody's like, okay, we're actually just going to do like a blues in B flat. All right, it's going to be a shuffle. Even if you don't really know blues, okay, you can figure out, okay, I'm in B flat, okay,
And then even if they go, okay, so it's believe in B flat, it's a shuffle, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the rest of the band starts playing. Obviously, if you don't know what you're doing, you don't have to play straight away. But if you don't have a good ear to understand what the next chord is, and you'd be able to find that, then you're kind of stuffed. If you can't listen to what the band are playing and go, I don't know what that chord is, but I'm just basically going to move around and try and find it. If you don't have that strong ear, you're not going to be able to do that. So all the other stuff tends to be technical. I mean, overbending and underbending, you can work on that. Vibrato, benchmarking, none of that's really relevant to a live situation. This is stuff you do in your bedroom and you work at it. Okay, it's coming up to the hour, folks. So thank you for joining me. If you have any questions, anything you want me to talk about, then I'll give you a few minutes to pop something in the chat. If not, I will carry on playing, noodling for a few more minutes, and then say goodbye. You can subscribe to 15-minute guitar practice. If you like, I usually do, I'm trying to do a video a week now, which isn't too bad. But I've been out of the game for quite a while with injury and lots of other stuff going on. Mark says, do you recommend Blues Jam first? First is in if you're a new player. I think going to a Blues Jam anytime is a good thing. Whether you are intending to go and play up on stage or not, you should go as a guitar player to see how it all works and to hear what kind of stuff gets played there and just scope out the level of abilities there. But I think the sooner the better in terms of, getting up on stage, getting amongst people. That's the reality of music. Okay, music is played in groups of people who are live humans. Okay, this is your chance to leave your apps and your 15 pedals at home and work on some things that you've probably not worked on when you're at home in your bedroom doing YouTube tutorials. And that is, being aware of what's going on, keeping your eyes open and looking at people for cues on stage. Okay, if you're here really into your guitar, because this is how you play at home, because obviously, it's a fact that the closer your chin is to the fretboard, the better you get, right? So, okay, if you're down here when you're playing live, you're in your own little world, and that's not what music is about. The other thing is that if you're in your bedroom and you're in your own little world down here, you're not really in the room with other people. You're in your own space, in your own world, but amongst people, and it's kind of like being on your phone in a group of people. Everybody else is talking and you're on your phone. You're actually there, but you're not there. And being at a Blues Jam certainly is good for you. Okay, get up on stage. It's hard to begin with because it's scary, because you know what's going on. But you can play 3 chords and you can play maybe a minor pentatonic shape, and you're going to play 2 or 3 songs. So tops 9 or 10 minutes, you'll be actually on stage. Take that leap. I definitely recommend that you normalize live performance as quickly as possible, because that's the real deal. learning to deal with the volumes of things on stage as opposed to here in your bedroom is a massive, massive difference. You've got a drum kit, okay? You've got cymbals, just feet from you, and you've got the PA and the speakers are pointing that way, okay? Which means you can't really hear unless there's some monitors or something down there. And you need to understand that you need to put your mic, your mouth, like bang on the mic, okay? I know Beyonce does all this stuff, right? But she's got some power, and this tech that she uses is massively expensive. But if you're a local blues jam, number one, you're not Beyonce. Number two, that tech is probably far more affordable. So you need to put your mouth, like, put it on the mic, okay? That's as close as it can be. And that's the best way to hear you and everybody else. Okay. Thank you very much for your time today, people. It's earlier than usual. Walter says, jam with everyone you can. It's also a great way to annoy your neighbors. When they stop complaining, it's time to go and play in clubs. Walter, you have some absolute gems, my friend. That's so cool. When they stop complaining, it's time to move on to the clubs. Good stuff. Get yourself in a live situation as soon as you can, whether that's live on stage with a bunch of people. I know that's, in terms of scary factor, that's probably pretty up there. But jam with a buddy, jam with two buddies, go and sit in on something. Harder, I know, in these difficult COVID social distancing times. But that's a whole different apprenticeship about playing live. And like, what happens if you make a mistake? How you recover from that mistake? What happens if something goes wrong with your gear? Okay. What happens if you forget the song or what bar you're in? All these things you are learning to cope with. As it's a great way to meet girls. Well, I think it always has been. Yes. I don't know. Do you get, like, if you're not very good, you get the pity from the girls and you get that attention? Or if you're awesome, you also get the awesomeness attention? Maybe it works both ways. Anyway, Walter, thanks for your tips. Pretend you made the mistake on purpose. Absolutely. And go and do it twice so it looks like you did it on purpose. Like, because you went back to it 2 times. Okay, thanks for joining me. I will see you maybe this time next week. Any questions, let me know. And take care. Bye for now. See ya.